Previously on X-Men.
Jean wants to avoid hurting people again, and that will drive the plot. But what she needs is to not be so hopeless, that she needs to have hope in herself and not be afraid of her own power. That will be her character arc. Movies are essentially about their protagonists wanting something and having trouble getting what they want due to there being obstacles in their way. And by the end of this journey, the main character or characters are different because of this experience. They either have a moral transformation or an increase in wisdom. That is basically the point in storytelling. Because one of the most fundamental human principles is that human beings have the capability to change. This is what a character arc is. Jean faces a series of increasingly difficult obstacles in the way of achieving that goal, and her character does change as a result of this experience. She becomes the Dark Phoenix. That's her character arc, which is the main thesis of my video essays. Now in this video, I'm going to break down the third act of Dark Phoenix. But first, I'm going to briefly summarize what happened in the previous acts. At the very beginning of Act 1, it is established that the film's central theme is about taking control of your own destiny instead of simply being what others want you to be. Jean Grey is established as the film's protagonist, and her character flaw is that she has been dramatized after her uncontrollable powers causes a car accident that kills her mother, which has caused her to develop a phobia of hurting people again. She fears her own power and doesn't have much hope in ever controlling it. And she was shown to have this mindset in X-Men Apocalypse as well.
I'm afraid one day I'm going to hurt someone.
Jean is also not in control of her life either, as she goes on dangerous missions for Charles despite being uncomfortable with them. She isn't living her own life, she's living his, simply being what he wants her to be. Because Jean's other character flaw is that she is very impressionable. We also learn that Charles has been controlling Jean's mind by repressing the memory that she caused her own mother's death. That is until a cosmic force is absorbed into Jean that slowly digs up those memories and brings back the emotional drama along with it, which causes her worst nightmare to become a reality as both her telepathy and anger go out of control. Jean becomes very irritable and she gets overwhelmed by the thoughts of others, and she lashes out at people to make the voices stop. They get badly injured as a result, and Jean naturally panics. She then tries to avoid causing more harm, and that serves as the central conflict of the film. And Act 2 features Jean trying to achieve that goal. She goes through a series of increasingly difficult hardships along the way, which help her character grow and develop into a different person. Such as her finding out that she caused her mother's death and her father had abandoned her for it. Then she accidentally kills Mystique. Magneto and Beast also turn their backs on Jean, much like her father did. We get a subplot about them trying to kill her, which adds to the theme of abandonment.
In this X-Men, you see her very, very conflicted. She goes through waves of emotion. She goes through this continuing theme of abandonment throughout the movie, and she's just kind of struggling with all of that, and it comes out in ways that she wish it didn't.
All of this causes Jean's drama to gradually get worse, and she becomes increasingly more violent throughout this act. She becomes far more impressionable due to being so unhinged. The film's antagonist, Emma Frost, wants to control Jean's power, and she takes advantage of the situation. She preys on Jean's weaknesses by offering her help in controlling her power and telling her that she should embrace it instead of being afraid of it. She manipulates Jean's fragile mind into thinking that Charles wants her dead for the death of Mystique, like Magneto and Beast do. However, Jean learns that Charles still has hope in her and wants to help her despite getting his foster sister killed. She learns that not everyone has abandoned her, and that is the final step in her character arc. That's the end of the recap. Now let's examine Act 3. This part of a story is about showing how the events of Act 2 have changed the characters. Here tension is at its highest, and the story gets resolved. There's a misconception about this act that I want to address. Contrary to popular belief, it was not reshot because it was too similar to Captain Marvel. Even Simon Kimmert says that that isn't true. The reshoots were done to have the X-Men fight the bad guys together. It's an element from Uncanny X-Men issue 134. The entire act is based on this issue. Alright, so the 7th sequence is where the new tension is introduced. It exists to help demonstrate how the main combination has changed a character, or characters. Jean gives Emma some of the cosmic energy and that renders her unconscious. Then Emma reveals her plan to wipe out humanity and stopping her becomes the new tension. The authorities then arrive at the Hellfire Club mansion and they try to arrest the X-Men, which is another element from issue 34. But in the movie version, they succeed in arresting them and put collars around their necks that suppress their powers, just like their comic book counterparts in issue 34 when they were captured by the Hellfire Club. But they are eventually freed to fight the Hellfire Club and save the day. The subplot with Magneto and Beast gets resolved in a very half-assed way.
Step aside.
What are you doing?
What Raven would have.
You wanted her dead.
I had a change of heart.
Then the X-Men and the Hellfire Club duke it out, just like their comic book counterparts did in the original storyline. While all of this is happening, Jean appears in Charles's mind in the form of her child self. Reverting to a younger state of mind is known as age regression. It's believed to be a defense mechanism to drama, stress, and anger, all of which Jean has been going through throughout the entire film. It's even alluded to in this scene.
Are we inside my mind?
It's more peaceful than mine.
Often this is a symptom of schizophrenia, dissociative identity disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder.
You know, the symptoms that Jean is having, they're not unlike schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder.
Jean also gives us a demonstration of her character growth in this scene.
I know what I need to do now.
What is that?
Protect my family.
Throughout the movie, Jean has been a character who believes her power is an uncontrollable curse that gets people hurt.
See, I have a school that is for young people who are like you. Special.
Special's just a nice word for
Weird or crazy.
I break things.
Well, how's this sound? If you break something, anything, I can fix it.
You think you can fix me too?
I can't control it when it comes. I can't stop it. Okay, I could hurt you again. Just when it comes,
People get hurt. When I lose control, things happen. Bad things to people I love.
You're the girl who everyone abandons.
Maybe they had good reason.
You're afraid of it because you think it makes you bad, evil.
Now Jean has become a character that believes her power is a gift that can be used for good. That's what Xavier told her when they first met.
What you choose to do with your gift, well, that's entirely up to you. But if you want to use it to do good stuff, no, I can help.
Jean even recreates the hospital room where she first met Charles. Alright, 8th and final sequence. This is where we get the resolution and the obligatory scene. The obligatory scene is the showdown between the protagonist and the antagonist. We get to see a new status quo, or at least what the future holds. Jean turns on the Hellfire Club just like her comic book counterpart did in issue 34. And we see Jean taking joy in unleashing her power on the bad guys. She even has a smirk on her face as she does it. That's another element from the comic. Jean enjoyed using her power as much as Wolverine loved using his claws. This is another demonstration of Jean's character growth as well, as it shows that she is embracing her power instead of being afraid of it. Then we get the obligatory scene with Jean facing off against Emma. It plays out like Jean's confrontation with Mastermind in the comic, where Jean gave him exactly what he wanted from her, power, and it was too much for him to handle. It basically fries his mind. Similar thing happens in the movie.
You want this power. You're gonna get it.
And she gets fried, literally. And we get another highlight of Jean's character growth in their last exchange.
Your emotions make you weak.
you're wrong. My emotions make me strong.
I know a lot of people find the dialogue cringy and don't really know what it means, but I'll explain. Jean is referring to the emotion of hope making her stronger. It's one of the movie's several callbacks to Days of Future Past.
And as frightening as it may be, that pain will make you stronger. If you allow yourself to feel it, embrace it, it will make you more powerful than you ever imagined. It's the greatest gift we have, to bear their pain without breaking. And it's born from the most human power. Hope.
It definitely made her stronger, as shown by her casually snapping the bad guys out of existence. Another example is her getting impaled and reforming herself with her telekinesis. That last one is actually the very first feat that Jean did after she became Phoenix in the comic. After Jean lobotomized the Mastermind, the power within her grew, and here is a very interesting quote that describes it. The obsidian flames burn bright within her, and in the distance she hears music, a symphony of power long sought and well remembered. Transfixed by unhuman joy, her burning soul spreads its wings and soars towards a destiny that will no longer be denied. She rails under the impact of more sensations than she has names for, as her song of power builds to its inevitable crescendo. Jean then emanates energy around herself as she lets the Phoenix take over, becoming the Dark Phoenix. Same thing happens in the movie after Jean obliterates Emma Frost. The power within Jean grows, burning bright, and she embraces it as she transforms into the Dark Phoenix. And we see Jean's burning soul spread its wings and soars towards a destiny that will no longer be denied.
It's your destiny, Jean, to become something greater, to evolve into the greatest force in the galaxy.
A lot of people think that Jean dies in this scene because that is what happened at the end of the saga, which has led to some people making criticisms that aren't exactly valid. Simon Kinberg says that Jean didn't die, and even in the movie Jean tells the audience this.
This is not the end of me.
Some people try to counter this by saying Jean literally explodes. She herself doesn't explode, she creates the explosion. That was the very first thing that Jean did as Dark Phoenix in the comic. She created an explosion in the sky. This scene is clearly meant to be a recreation of that. Then she flew off into space after that, and her movie counterpart does the same exact thing. At that point in the original storyline, Jean wanted to cut the ties that bonded her to the person she was and the life she led. She called it quits with the X-Men and didn't want their paths to cross anymore because she believed that her destiny lay in the stars. She hungered for the joy and rapture that her power gave her beyond all comprehension. It consumed her. And she tried to gain the ultimate sensation by consuming the energy of stars. The movie version seems to have the same mindset, as she communicates with Charles via her telepathy before going off into space. Cyclops thinks that Jean is dead, but Charles corrects him, saying that she is free.
She's free.
Jean most likely told Charles the same thing her comic book counterpart told the X-Men, that she is cutting herself free from the ties that binded her to the person she was and the life she led. And the life she led wasn't hers, it was Charles.
It's not our life, Hank. It's his. What do you think the X and X-Men stands for?
Also, listen to Jean's monologue at the end.
I know who I am now. I am not simply what others want me to be. I am not destined to a fate I can't control. I evolved beyond this world.
So Jean doesn't believe that her destiny belongs on this world, but that it lays in the stars, like in the original storyline. So she didn't die, she became the Dark Phoenix. That is the new status quo. She started out as someone afraid of her own power and was simply being what others wanted her to be. But throughout the course of the movie, she evolved. She overcame her fear and embraced her power, choosing to follow a destiny that she had control over, rather than leading a life that wasn't hers. Jean Grey is no longer the woman the X-Men knew. She has become fire and life incarnate. Now and forever, she is Phoenix.
It does evolve over the span of the film. It starts really small on her, and then it gets kind of bigger and bigger as you feel as though Phoenix is taking over Jean. This is fully Jean at the beginning of the movie, and this is Phoenix. And by the end of the movie, this is Phoenix, and there's no more of Jean.
So I think I have proven my thesis, which is that this film is an adaptation of the Hellfire Club segment of the Dark Phoenix saga, and that Jean does not become the Dark Phoenix until at the very end of the movie as her character arc. So a lot of people misinterpreted what the premise of this film was.
She actually does some good with it at first.
Yeah, she saves the Emcron crystal and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's like you give her this awesome infinite wellspring of power, and it's so clearly the wrong idea and evil right from the get-go. There's no drama. There's the conflict is missing.
Well, you're setting yourself up for the highest stakes in any X-Men movie ever, and as you pointed out, I think, I forget who, but it ends in the lowest stakes battle, which is literally the battle across the street.
It just feels like it's crushed together. That really calls back to a time in comic book movie history where studios were like, we have comic book characters. We'll just have them do stuff. They don't have to do anything interesting. There doesn't even have to be a story. We can just have them do shit. That's what this movie feels like. It's just X-Men characters doing shit. And that's where I will say, man, I'm about to say this. X-Men The Last Stand at least had a plot driving the whole thing forward. There was a kid, they were harvesting a cure, and oh yeah, by the way, we have Dark Phoenix also. Not saying that's great, not saying that's how it should have been, not saying it works. I'm just saying it works more than this movie works. Pacing sucks too. After Jean gets her Phoenix powers and she flies away, and there's just like all the X-Men are mopey. Jean's most of the time like, oh, I'm scared, I don't know what to do, God. Then they're like, all right, we'll just start throwing characters at her, and then she'll have to deal with that, and she'll run off and be like, oh God, do I really want this? And then she flies away again, and they're all mopey again, and I'm like, something needs to happen. How interesting can that be? Yeah, they could have just had her be this big evil that they now have to take out, but that would have been X-Men Apocalypse, would have been a little redundant. So you have the possibility of redundancy or boredom. What to do? Let's go through it. This movie's not as good as the first X-Men movie, not as good as X2 X-Men United, not as good as X-Men 3 The Last Stand, not as good as X-Men Origins Wolverine, it's not as good as X-Men First Class, it's not as good as X-Men Days of Future Past, it's not as good as X-Men Apocalypse, certainly not as good as Logan. It's the worst X-Men movie. I would watch any one of those before I watch this again, because at least those ones look like they were trying to tell a story.
Stories are about how characters change, as I said in my last video, and this story is about how Jean becomes the Phoenix. As special effects supervisor Greg Butler says here.
I met with Sophie while I was still writing the screenplay, 9 months before we started photography on the film, and we just had lunch in LA, and I said, look, this is the movie that I'm writing. It's called The Dark Phoenix Saga. It's about you, and you're the center of the movie, and it's about Jean getting smaller and smaller and weaker, and Phoenix becoming stronger and stronger.
It's just like how X-Men First Class is about how Eric becomes Magneto. And like how Jean's story parallels Charles' story in Days of Future Past, it parallels Eric's story in First Class just as much. For example, both Jean and Eric have a ghost, which is movie speak for something in a character's past that haunts them, also known as the wound. The ghost, or wound, creates what is known as the lie, which refers to an untruth that characters believe about themselves. Often the wound is something shocking and traumatic. Eric and Jean's traumatic wounds are the deaths of their mothers, which has filled them with pain and rage.
There's so much more to you than you know. Not just pain and anger.
She's all desire, all rage, all pain.
As I briefly discussed in my last video, the movie even notes the similarities between them. And this is probably the reason why they switched Annie Richardson with Jean's mother as the one who died in the car accident. Also, the Hellfire Club were the villains of that movie and were originally going to return as the villains for this film, and I bet Simon Kinberg couldn't resist making parallels to that movie. And there are certain callbacks to it, such as the notion that killing did not bring Eric peace.
I hurt people.
Yes.
Kill people. Killed whatever I thought would make pain go away.
I didn't. No matter how many souls I sent under. Killing sure will not bring you peace. Peace was never an option.
And that is the lie that Eric believed, that killing would bring him peace, while Jean's lie is that her power is an uncontrollable curse. And character arcs are about the gradual change in beliefs that a character goes throughout the story. There are 3 types of them: the positive change arc, the flat arc, and the negative arc. I'll just be talking about the positive and negative. The positive change arc involves a character believing in a lie and needs to learn the truth, they encounter that truth, and by the end of the story, they overcome the lie by finding and accepting that truth. The truth refers to what the character needs to discover about themselves or the world to become complete, balanced, or whole. Both Eric and Jean encounter the truth through Charles Xavier. He tells Eric that killing will not bring him peace, but in the end, he rejects the truth. This is an example of a negative character arc called the Fall arc. It involves a character believing a lie, clings to that lie, and rejects the truth. By the end of the story, they believe a stronger or worse lie. Eric adopts a stronger and worse lie at the end of First Class.
Why are you on their side? Why fight for a doomed race who will hunt us down as soon as they realize their reign is coming to an end?
He adopts Sebastian Shaw's philosophy.
If you're in there, I'd like you to know that I agree with every word you said. We are the future.
Now, Jean also has a fall arc, but not a traditional one where she rejects the truth. Through Charles, she encounters it, finds it, and accepts it.
Please try and remember what I taught you. You can control it. You can do anything you set your mind to.
But like Eric, Jean adopts a new lie, and it's from a character that is based on a Hellfire Club member.
The better question is, who are you? Are you a scared little girl who answers to a man in a chair? Or are you the most powerful creature on the planet? They can't begin to comprehend what you are. Even your X-Men.
Jean, please!
You have no idea who I am.
I've raised you since you were a little girl. I think I do.
She's not your little girl anymore. It's your destiny, Jean, to become something greater. To evolve into the greatest force in the galaxy.
I evolved beyond this world.
This Emma Frost knockoff wants Jean to embrace her power like Shaw did with Eric.
Sorry for what happened in the camps. I truly am. But everything I did for you. To unlock your power. To make you embrace it.
And if you stop fighting that force inside you, if you embrace it.
She tells Jean that people will hunt her like Shaw tells Eric.
I fight for a doomed race who will hunt us down as soon as they realize their reign is coming to an end.
I told you they could never understand you. And what they don't understand, they fear. And what they fear, they seek to destroy.
She wants to wipe out life on Earth so her kind can rule it, just like Shaw and Emma Frost did.
We are the children of the atom. Radiation gave birth to mutants. What will kill the humans will only make us stronger.
Beautiful, isn't it?
It definitely feels like the Hellfire Club were originally going to be the villains for this film, the more and more I think about it. And it feels like the change happened at the very last minute. Why does this Emma Frost looking alien want Jean to kill Charles and Eric so much? I have a theory. Back in First Class, it was hinted that Emma was in a relationship with Shaw. You know, the guy that Charles had frozen and that allowed Eric to kill him. So the original premise of the movie probably was that Emma Frost had returned to avenge Shaw. There was a Hollywood Reporter article from around the time of the film's release. It quotes a former Fox executive saying, "Was this the final X-Men movie? Was this about a character going back? This movie just got lost." I remember reading this when it came out and wondered, what did they mean by a character going back? Several months later, the concept art of the Hellfire Club released, and I was like, oh. There is also concept art of Sebastian Shaw's son, Shinobi Shaw, and that supports the revenge premise even more. Further supporting that premise is the concept art of the Ferris twins. They are the children of a Nazi officer in the comics, and remember, Eric was going around killing Nazis in First Class, so he probably killed their dad too. That sounds similar to the premise of The Dark Knight Rises, and that probably isn't a coincidence. Simon Kimmer says that he took inspiration from the Nolan Batman films, and even says that the final scene is a nod to Rises. Now, I should note that New Mutants was originally supposed to be set in the 80s according to director Josh Boone. Professor X and Storm were supposed to appear, with James McAvoy and Alexandra Schiff reprising their roles. But the new studio head at Fox didn't want any more prequel X-Men films after Apocalypse's reception, so they set it in modern day. You might be wondering, what does that have to do with Dark Phoenix? Remember what I said in my first video, like how this was planned to be a 2-part film, but the studio had abandoned that idea in late pre-production? The fact that the studio didn't want any more prequels is likely the reason why the second part was cancelled. So this movie was going to be the end of the prequel era of the X-Men films, even before Fox sold the studio to Disney. In that case, the decision to replace the Hellfire Club with random generic alien invaders is even worse now. It's like if Warner Brothers had changed the villains of The Dark Knight Rises in late pre-production, where instead of having the League of Shadows return, bringing the story full circle, they instead went with White Martians as the bad guys. Fox should have did what Warner Brothers did and end the story full circle. The series started with the Hellfire Club, it ends with the Hellfire Club. Sure, you could say that would have been derivative of Rises, but that still would have been miles better than what they ultimately went with. Anyway, that is the end of my story analysis of Dark Phoenix. Stay tuned for my final video where I address other criticisms and discuss the movie's actual flaws. Because despite everything I have said throughout this series, I still don't think that it's a well-told story, and I'm going to explain why. Till next time.